entire time when I was watching it, I'm like, when is Nicole Kidman gonna act? When is she gonna do something? And then the fourth act really just made her shine. That one scene in the cabin, everyone kind of knows it. Everyone's been talking about it because that is the Nicole Kidman that we know and love. Hey guys, welcome back to Candid Cinema. I'm Amanda, otherwise known as AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Today I will be reviewing the new Robert Eggers film, The Northman. And I kind of made a rule, you have to say it like that or else it's just not gonna feel like you're invested in this movie. I absolutely had a blast with The Northman. It's one of those movies where there's so much happening on screen. You're kind of confused, but you can't look away. And I like that because the visual storytelling really elevated this very linear story and it worked for what it was. There's some plot issues that I didn't really like or vibe. I feel like it could have been fleshed out a bit more, but Robert Eggers really set up this 5-part structure that worked for what it was. So we meet Prince Amleth, who is on the verge of becoming a man when his father is brutally murdered by his uncle, who kidnaps the boy's mother. 2 decades later, Amleth is now a Viking who raids Slavic villages. He soon meets a seeress who reminds him of his vow: save his mother, kill his uncle, avenge his father. So the first act, we meet a very young Prince Amleth, and within this first section, we kind of understand how the kingdom works and how Ethan Hawke operates as the king. So the king has a very dual persona. He acts one way with his kin, with his blood, which is his youngest son. He's always very happy to see him. As we see, he hugs him and he really genuinely loves his son. Whereas when he's intimate in close quarters with Nicole Kidman, who plays his wife, he wants nothing to do with her. He's all about being in battle, dying on the battlefield like his father, and he doesn't really want anything to do with her, as we see, which kind of foreshadows what happens and what is uncovered in the fourth act of this. So it really just holds you until that fourth act in regards to how Nicole Kidman and Ethan Hawke's relationship was, which I found really interesting and was one of the biggest twists of the film. And even if it is a linear storyline, the visual storytelling elevated, as I said, but this twist in particular came at the right time because the entire time when I was watching it, I'm like, when is Nicole Kidman gonna act? When is she gonna do something? And then the fourth act really just made her shine. That one scene in the cabin, everyone kind of knows it. Everyone's been talking about it because that is the Nicole Kidman that we know and love. She absolutely took my breath away in that scene. She was brilliant. So this first scene really shows the legacy of the king and what he wants to instill in his young son, the young prince. They end up making this blood pact that if anything were to happen to Ethan Hawke, to the king, that Prince Amleth, who is eventually played by Alexander Skarsgård, needs to avenge him. He needs to avenge his father. So what impressed me the most about this first part is that the ritual that had taken place in Willem Dafoe's cave, which we're just going to call it that. He played the jester at the king's court. And then obviously he has a very close personal tie with the king if he is the one that performs this magic, this voodoo for this blood pact. And I was in awe within the first act of how stunning this was, how eerie it was. The score is absolutely fantastic and really gives that feeling that there is witchcraft around. That's what made this really strong, is that there is a hint of witchcraft. When the magic aspect comes in, it is played into the score and the animals surrounding him and more of like the environment, showing that there is witchcraft present. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to see it. It's just felt through the atmosphere. And I think that's what really worked. I would have loved to have seen a bit more of the witchcraft, but I feel like the score was good enough. The visuals were good enough. And the environment around Prince Amleth showing that was really cool. And it wasn't overplayed. I think that Eggers really developed a strong balance between the two, so it wasn't too far-fetched where they could have gone. It could have gone far-fetched. They really kept it contained with the simple story. And then the visuals just made that very clear that there was witchcraft there. I absolutely loved Alexander Skarsgård in this. Not only does he look like the most perfect specimen, he looks so good. So Jack Show. His shoulders, his back, Jesus, looks so good. Looked like the most menacing person in the world, but he had a heart because of his father. So, like I said, this movie is all about legacy and following through on your legacy. And there's one visual sequence which I was absolutely blown away by, is that whenever Prince Amleth makes contact with his kin, he sees his bloodline, and the bloodline turns into a family tree. And it is just the most beautiful thing that I've seen in a while. And to translate it in that way, to show the roots of it as a tree within the heart, within the arteries, and where it stems from, is just such a beautiful parallel that I really love this movie for that reason. It's just the symbolism in regards to how a long line of men are attached to each other, and what they need to do for their fathers, what they need to do for their sons in order to protect the lineage. And I think that that's the takeaway from the Northmen, which I really enjoyed. I liked it. I understood the connection. I also emotionally connected with that as well, because they have those emotional beats that really hit throughout the film in regards to Prince Amleth trying to really process who his father was, who his mother was, who his uncle was, because his entire past was basically a lie. It was taken away from him. So it also hinders his relationships in the future, and how he looks at family, how he looks at getting married, how to do any of that. So he has to learn to live again. Like, he strayed away from his past because he became this beast, this animal, and he had so much rage inside him of what happened that he kind of lost his way. And then the witchcraft comes in, and he is reminded that he has to save his mother, has to kill his uncle, and he has to avenge his father. So there are some really fantastic scenes. There's some great moments. There are some things that I would have changed around in the script in the, I think, the third act to the fourth act connectivity. That's where it kind of dragged a bit. Like, that last half hour dragged because of certain choices for the character that I wouldn't have done. So that's the only thing that I would have kind of reworked, because it did run long for that specific reason. But I do give the Northman a 3.5 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. It's possibly one of my favorites this year so far. It's really strong. My favorite Robert Eggers, hands down. Big step up from the Lighthouse. I think he did develop a perfect balance between his visual storytelling, his specific style, and the linear storyline that actually made sense and that you could follow. And I think that balance really made for a strong film in his filmography. In this case with Robert Eggers, I'm just really impressed how much he put into the Northman, and he really took the story, made it his own, and just visually made us feast in this movie. I thought it was great. It was really graphic at times. I had to look away. Like, he did not shy away from the brutality and the violence, but you have to show that. You really do. I just didn't expect that he would take certain things so far, but I was impressed. So I gave The Northman a 3.5 out of 5. Let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed The Northman and if this is your favorite Robert Eggers movie. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. You can always follow me over at AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. I'll catch you guys next time. Keep watching movies.